Hey fam, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another recap of Welcome to Plathville. This is season 4, episode 9. You have a lot of nerve. My hope is to get another one of these recaps out on Thursday, but there is a lot going on right now, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, but I had to leave you all with something. So hopefully I'll be able to, but for right now, I'm just going to make sure I give you something. In watching this episode, I have to admit that Kimberly Plath is an enigma to me because I find the switch up and her reasoning behind things a little questionable, okay? And hear me when I say this. I am not saying that I do not doubt that Kimberly went through some things when she was a child that unfortunately some of us have been through. I just don't know if that's the true reason why she decided to go down the path that she did and why she decided to switch things up the way that she has, to the point where I don't know if I buy it, because after years of sheltering and not properly educating her kids and traumatizing them and keeping them from technology and friends and not allowing them to listen to music or to have sugary drinks or to control so much of their lives, after showing us on TV for multiple seasons how judgmental they were, here she is now, not just changing it all up, but in some instances trying to blame a lot of what transpired on Barry. And I just don't find it to be the case, because now that she's supposedly carefree and she's the fun mom, now she's just open to all these different things that she was giving, and Barry was giving Ethan and Olivia and Mariah and Micah so much grief about. I feel like she's a phony. And because she's a phony, I cannot find myself relating to her at any point when she's talking about something that truly is traumatic. And I want you to hear my heart when I say this. I believe that Kim has went through some things. I do. I feel like Kim is in deep need of therapy, because there's so much more about the person that she's shown up as than just that. I feel like there's a lot of trauma there that she hasn't dealt with, and you deciding to be more carefree isn't going to take away from that trauma. I said she's doing the very things that she was judging them on for 3 seasons. I get that people change, but Kim is different. 25 years of being this one way, and now here we are and we're deciding to switch it up. After reading all of the books that we have read on these cults and some of these religions, it is hard to believe that someone could switch the way that she switched so quickly. Even the book that we're reading now, The Witness Wore Red, with that young lady being out for several years, we're seeing the different struggles she's been facing. And I just don't understand how Kim, who did a lot of what she did supposedly originally for a religious purposes, is now by the end of the episode saying that, oh, it wasn't really that. What it was my childhood. I don't know if I'm completely buying it. But and by buying it, I mean that she's just blaming her childhood for why she did what she did. I think it was to get the man, which at the time was Barry. But y'all tell me your thoughts down below. So do me a favor, hit the like button and let's get into it. There will be things that I'll be leaving out that happened in this episode. If you want to talk about it, feel free to put it down below. So, Ethan and Barry, now that they've spoken, it's all good between these two. Ethan feels like his father was never the real problem. His mom was. She's the meddler and the controlling one, and she's manipulative, and she's the one who's in everyone's business. And as a result of what he's seen, he does not trust her. He wants to hang out with his father, who he's calling the straight shooter. Now, in season 7, Ethan likes to act like Olivia, as do his parents, especially his mom. Him and Kim tend to have these type of sit downs, but he likes to act like Olivia is the only reason why there was an issue with them. Like Olivia is the one who presented all these problems. Excuse me, or like she heavily influenced him. Get your words, girl. But the things that we're hearing Ethan say in this episode are all things that he's saying that he's experienced with his mom. Not what Olivia's experienced, what he's experienced, which goes to show you that as much as he likes to blame it on Olivia, Ethan had his own problems. So, anyways, him and his daddy meet up at the pizza shop. Ethan orders a veggie pizza and a beer. And he notices right away that his father, who in previous years would have made faces or made a sly comment or something about it, didn't say anything. He wasn't being judgmental. He, in fact, made a joke about it because he talked about how, Ethan has a baby face and how he probably even has to get carded when he is out in the shopping places and whatever else. So to him, because his father isn't judging him, that this marks change. Barry talks about, how much time has passed and how, he's glad that they're now in this place where they're communicating again. He admits that there were a lot of things that he did that he now regrets, especially with the last conversation that we saw them have in the driveway. They both feel like some of their issues were because of Olivia and Kim, and that, ladies are just these emotional, complex beings. Sounds to me like Ethan and his father are both men who need to learn to tap into their emotions more. Because Ethan goes as far as saying that he has some friends that, or he knows some guys that are very in tune with their feelings, and he feels like that's ladylike. I personally feel like openly talking about things, being honest about your feelings is a sign of emotional intelligence. It's a sign of maturity. It's a sign of you being vulnerable, especially with your mate. You should be able to do that. But Ethan and his siblings weren't taught basic ways of dealing with these things. We've spoken about this before. So Barry hopes that his son one day stops shutting down, stops stuffing it, as he said. He hopes that Ethan gets to a place where rather than running from his emotions and trying to work on cars and things of that nature, that he actually deals with them and talks about them, something that Barry himself feels like he's learning to do. I personally feel like Ethan has to be willing to try, and we see a lot of Ethan not trying. So Ethan tells his dad, excuse me, goodness gracious, why I start yawning when I'm on camera? So Ethan tells his dad that he was pissed with him for a long time, but time has caused him to let it go. He wants them in the future, if they have an argument, to just disagree, to just agree to disagree. He doesn't want it to be like this where it got so bad that they went all that time without speaking to each other. His father agrees, tells him he loves him and that he's proud of him. And Ethan talks about how much this means to him because it's not something that he heard a lot of growing up as a kid. I completely understand that. So we later see Ethan heading back home to Tampa. He's on his new bike that he did not tell his wife, Olivia, about. He mentioned that he was going to get a new bike to his father, someone who he hasn't been talking to for several years. But the wife, the woman that you're married to, the person that you decided to work things out with, doesn't get told about the bike. Ethan is selfish and he does not operate as a person who's married. He operates very much so like a single person. I'm not saying you have to tell someone the ins and outs and every single thing that you're doing, but I think that when you make um the step of I cannot talk today, of being one with a person, of intertwining with them, of creating home with them and sharing space with a person, the least you can do is talk about big purchases. And that is a big purchase. It's not like you went and bought yourself a wallet, you bought a motorcycle. You should have had to talk with your wife about it. Seeing as so are you already had one and she already felt a way about the whole car situation. And where's the other bikes going to be kept? You're going to just keep everything at Phil's? Okay. So, he is on his new bike that, as I said, he didn't tell his wife about. A bike that ended up having to stay at a gas station because it had a battery problem while he was coming back. So he had to catch a ride from the gas station to the house. We don't even know how much he had to pay for that. We find out that he's back to his same old tricks because he told Olivia that he was only going to be gone for 2 days when he's been gone for over a week first. And we find out that she called him 16 different times while he was gone. And of those 16 times, he only answered her phone call once. And Olivia, based on some things that she heard from some of her friends, asked him, have you met up with your parents? Are you going to speak to them? And rather than being truthful about it, because Ethan often lies, he lies because he didn't want to talk about it. I don't care if he wanted to talk about it or not. That's not an excuse. Why lie? Just tell Olivia, I'd rather talk about this once we're face to face. Now, what we find out is the main reason why Olivia asked him about meeting up with his parents is because Olivia, in my opinion, has been doing some snooping because her friends let her know that the Plaths are separated. She asks Ethan about it. Ethan denies knowing anything about it. So he comes home, he announces that he got a new bike and his old one is at the shop. Olivia and her brother cannot believe that this man pulled this crap yet again. So as he's getting ready to, walk into the house, she tells him, "Welcome home, motorcyclist." Like, it's a little passive aggressive, but it is what it is. Ethan didn't appreciate that, and he walks into the house visibly upset, and he even slams the door. I'm not surprised by this. Ethan often throws tantrums. We've seen it even in current seasons where he's tossing tables on the floor and speeding off and doing things that you see kids do rather than addressing his feelings. He needs to grow up. So Olivia does like what she always does, which she chases after this grown man and she's trying to talk to him, but she's looking at him like she wants him to say something even though he's not going to say something, and she tells him that she's pissed because once again he is operating basically as one. Him being considerate would have meant that he at some point would have let her know about this bike, but he again purchased it, just like how she found out a month ago about the whole car thing. She knows at this point, based on his response, that it's about more than the bike. But as usual, she's putting his feelings before her own and she's just kind of dropping it. They eventually embrace. She lets him know that she's glad he's back home because she missed him. Couldn't be me. So later on, we find out that they had a conversation off camera where he told her not just about him lying, but about his parents separating. Olivia says that, she just wants an honest partner, that it's okay if they disagree or if they have arguments and things of that nature, but she just needs him to be honest. She rather argue than have him lying to her, whereas he doesn't feel like him lying is that big of a deal, but arguing seems to be a big problem for him. So Olivia thinks that it's good that he was able to talk to Barry, although Barry has said some things to her in the past that hurt her, she doesn't think that it was intentional. And at this point, now both she and Ethan feel like it was more so Kim. I understand that Kim is a tyrant, but we're not going to sit here and act like Barry was innocent in these things too. Barry, in his little smirk, said and did some things that weren't right either. And just because now Ethan is, on better terms with his father doesn't negate the truth, which is that neither one of his parents were very accepting of Olivia at some point. Olivia did her stuff. We're not going to act like she was the perfect person either. However, let's not change the narrative and say, like, oh, it was all Kim, when no, it was Barry too. It was all of y'all. So back in Cairo, we see Lydia and Kimberly finally talk. Now, Kim tells us that she's been avoiding having this conversation because she doesn't really want to have to deal with Lydia's opinion, which is calling judgment, because they taught their kids that marriage is forever. Now, the energy between them is off. It's really off. It feels like they're talking about things, but they're still skirting around it. So Lydia feels like after 24 years, her mom should take time to find out what in the marriage is not working and what needs to be done to fix it. I personally feel like Kim never did that. I think that Kim found certain areas where she was irritated with Barry, but I don't think that she put in the work with him to fix it. I think she just expected him to do everything, to cater to her, to fall on his knees, grovel, do what he's supposed to do to get her back and stick with it. And I also think that Kim found somebody who was willing to do the very things that she wanted. My opinion, tell me yours. So she's acting like she's been unhappy for 24 years. Kim claims that they did try to make it work, that she can't keep going through this. I saw a clip where she says that she can't keep devoting her time to somebody who doesn't love her. I don't believe that. I don't. Um this has nothing to do with this episode. But when I saw that clip, I thought about it because I feel like we know Barry, it seems like, wasn't the best communicator at times. We know that maybe there were times where he didn't tell her that he loved her based on that clip. But I'm someone who grew up in a family where we didn't say that a lot either. And I remember, and I may have spoken about this before, but I'm just going to say it again for those of you who are unaware. I remember several years ago, I was doing a therapy session with my father, right? And one of the things that I spoke about, and my father and I are very close. That's my dog. I said it before. In my mind, he's my friend. He'll tell you he's not my friend. He's my father, but he's my friend to me, just because of the conversations that we have. I love him immensely. I think he's an amazing man who sacrificed a lot to come to this country and make sure that his family that's here as well as back home is taken care of, right? With that being said, growing up, we were not overly affectionate. We did not hear I love you a whole bunch, partially because my parents were raised that way and that's the way that they passed it down. And I remember I said in a therapy session how growing up I never heard I love you, like Tish, I love you, da 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 da. My dad calls me Tish. Tish, I love you, da 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 da. Um, but I knew my father loved me, right? Like he showed me in the best way that he could, but he didn't say it. And there were times where I'd get on the phone and I'd be like, love you, daddy. And he'll be like, mm-hmm. Or he'd say ditto. And the moment that I said in that therapy session, like, I never heard you say the words, I love you. And I really needed to hear you say, I love you. The way that my father has since made it his business to make sure that he says it, even though I know it's something that does not come naturally to him, I appreciate immensely because I know that my father has put in the work, so much so to the point where there's a lot of times where we're about to get off the phone and he'll say I love you before I even say it. And I feel like this little kid, even though I'm 41 years old, I feel like this little kid again from hearing those words. And I say all that to say, let's say, because I think we're talking about in the next episode, that Barry didn't do all these things, that Barry didn't say I love you, that Barry didn't communicate with her and didn't show her this and didn't show her that. Kim expects for all of these changes to happen with Barry without any form of guidance. There has to be something put in place to show the ways. He himself may have not been taught certain things, just like I know for a fact, because I'm not an overly affectionate person, my son has created a part of me that has made me be more affectionate because it's something that when he was little, he craved. You make the necessary changes and you take the necessary steps. But Kim seems to be the one that feels like Barry has to do all these things while she doesn't. I hope you get what I'm saying, because she keeps on going by saying to her daughter that there is no intimacy in her marriage and she is lonely and she is neglected and she is worth being loved, which implies that you're not loved. And Kim, did you take steps with him? Did you show him what ways you needed to be loved? Did you show him, like, look, did y'all take a test together like the way that we saw Ethan and Olivia do to learn each other's love language? Because it seems like Kim has a whole bunch of different needs and Barry wasn't privy to them. Just my opinion. Y'all tell me yours. So she says she wants someone who will listen to her and not ignore her. And Lydia begins to talk about, the love of the Father and the things that could come through the Heavenly Father and all that other stuff. And Kim isn't trying to hear that. Lydia is telling us, like, I'm listening to her, to my mom, and she is going against everything that she ever taught me. Marriage is a covenant, and I just don't get how they could break it. Lydia is who her parents taught her to be. It wasn't an act for Lydia. This is very much so who Lydia is at her core. And we see it now. And I really, really want the best for Lydia because Lydia has been through some stuff dealing with these people. So we later see Mariah being impressed by the little satellite television that they have. And Ethan is being a kid again as he plays passing gas sounds, 3 hours worth of passing gas sounds that you can listen to. And she's laughing at it, but she's like, oh, it's cringy and I'm embarrassed. And they talk about how, this is such a big deal for them to have that because growing up, they barely got to watch TV or movies and things of that nature. So we later see Kim meet up with Micah at the tavern to enjoy some alcohol. Kim was not drinking when Micah was little, but she's down for it now. So Kim shows up. Kim, you always wear stuff that you don't have no business wearing. Kim has some beautiful legs. I'll give credit where it's due. Kim has some beautiful legs. But at a certain point, like, prime example, I am not going to dress a certain way around my son that I am going to if it's a date night with myself and my man. I feel like Kim is craving this attention. And because she's craving it right now, the way for her to get it is to do things like wear little itty bitty clothes that she needs to go a couple sizes up on. Because as she sat down in that chair with that little mini skirt on, I was just waiting for her cheek to pop out. I was. I was like, girl, you're getting on a high top chair that's kind of like bar stool size, and you're sitting down with your son to drink and stuff. Like, I wouldn't have worn that. Just, the shirt was fine. It was the skirt, it was a little too short in my opinion, but I'm a little prudish sometimes. Anyways, so she lets us know that Barry is anti-alcohol, that she was his wife, and because of that she just went along with it and supported it. Now, Kim, we're not going to do that because that's not what you told us in season 1. You told us that your mother was an alcoholic. You didn't want your kids to grow up to be alcoholics. And that was part of the reason why you took your stance. Kim now is saying that she knows God, God knows her, life is short, and it's time to have some fun. And now she has the freedom to do this. So Micah's like, so you didn't have the freedom to do it with dad? She's like, well, I knew your dad's stance on it, so I chose not to do it. Barry has very much so been who he has professed himself to be throughout these seasons. I still think he's creepy. I still think there's some other stuff there that we don't know, but it is what it is. So Kim acts like, in my opinion, she's this poor defenseless woman. She keeps talking to to us about how she told Barry how unhappy she was and all these other things, and he just didn't do anything. Once again, she has no issues. It's just Barry. Barry's the main issue. So Micah's like, I want to know, what went wrong? Like, what went wrong? Why were we raised how we were raised? And Kim says one of her major reasons for keeping them isolated is because when she was little, 4 or 5, her mother had gotten a teenage boy to watch her, which I'm surprised that it was a boy. That really surprised me. Not saying that there aren't instances where women do certain things to you women as well. It's just you don't often hear about um parents being okay with a teenage boy watching a little girl. It's sad that you have to think that way, but you just do. You do. So Kim basically lets it be known that when she was 4 or 5, something extremely inappropriate happened with her. She says she was abused. Um, and I was listening to her talk, and I said it earlier in the recap. I do believe that something did happen to her when she was a little girl. For me, I just don't feel like that's the only reason why you went as left with this as you did. Protect your kids, yes. I've had some things happen to me as a result of that. My son wasn't sleeping over at people's houses. He wasn't. Nah. And when I he did get to the age, like, even with my family, no, because a lot of times it's the people that unfortunately, who do these things to your kids, right? And he was not sleeping over people's houses. I remember I had very, very early on, I talked to my son about who was allowed to touch certain areas of his body. And I had to be very, very like, look, nobody's supposed to touch here or here. If they do, it's only to help you clean up, da 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 da. That's that. And yeah, you have to have these conversations because you don't want your kids to be in a situation where something bad happens to them. So I understand her wanting to protect them. I just feel like it's not just that, because that doesn't explain all the other things. Now Kim does admit that maybe she was too overprotective, but she feels like it's better to be overprotective than to have had something bad happen. Micah at this point now feels like, he calls it a penny drop moment, that he thought that it was all religion, but now he's realizing that this part of it wasn't said. Um, I just, as I said, don't know. Y'all tell me what you think. So Micah feels like um this opens up a connection with them because they're all humans, they all have problems, and it kind of, makes them understand more why they did what they did. That to me isn't enough. I would need to know more, because all she explained was why she kept an eye on you. That doesn't explain why they didn't allow you to have a proper education. That doesn't explain why you weren't allowed to watch um television and certain things like that. Like, I can easily tell you that my mother in particular was not letting me listen to worldly music because of the lyrics and the things that were being said, and she felt like there was hidden messages in it. And I could easily tell you that my mother did not like me to be around alcohol, even with family members who were drinking or in the vicinity of it, because she feels like you're not supposed to drink. To this day, she feels like you're not supposed to drink. She feels like drinking is a sin. I can easily tell you that on Sunset Friday to Sunset Saturday, everything that I did had to be devoted to God, which meant I wasn't allowed to go to my prom. I couldn't go to football games if they were during the Sabbath. I wasn't allowed to go to the movies because of the influence that that may have. I wasn't allowed to watch certain programming. I can list things because it was explained. So Kim taking forever to explain why she parented her kids the way that she parented them, and just say that it was because of the abuse aspect. There's something about it that feels disingenuous to me, and I could be wrong. Let me know your thoughts down below. It could just be my disdain for Kim that I feel this way, but I just feel like that's not enough. I understand. For Barry, it seems like most of it is religious reasons, even if he does drink kombucha from time to time. And even if now in season 7 we see him drink here and there, we don't see him do it in excess. And he didn't get a DUI like Kim. I'm just saying. But that's all I got. Y'all let me know what you thought of this recap. As I said earlier, if there's something that you want to talk about that happened in the episode that I didn't mention, feel free to put it down below. Like the video as it helps the channel, and subscribe. Until next time, say it with me now. Peace.